I get eager standing in the aisle or scrolling at home, staring at that sleek black box that promises 8K video, audiophile-grade sound, and a whole Android ecosystem, and you're wondering if you should actually spend a few $100s on it. I've been there, trying to figure out whether a high-end media player is worth the upgrade or just a fancy paperweight that will sit idle while you keep using the TV's built-in apps. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So let's walk through what it really feels like to set up the Dune HD Max, how it behaves once it's plugged in, and who's actually going to get the most bang for their buck. First off, the Dune HD Max isn't a tiny dongle you slip into an HDMI port. It's a full-size, 17-inch wide chassis that looks more like a mini tower than a streaming stick. The brushed metal front gives it a premium feel, but it also means you need a little shelf or a dedicated media rack where there's room for the built-in hard drive rack. If you're used to hiding a Roku or Fire Stick behind the TV, you'll notice this right away. The setup process is straightforward. Plug the linear power supply into the wall, connect HDMI to your TV, hook up Ethernet or Wi-Fi, and you're ready for the on-screen wizard. The linear PSU is a quiet, heavy-duty piece of engineering that eliminates the little whine you sometimes hear with switching supplies, something that matters if you have a high-fidelity sound system nearby. What sets the Max apart is the attention to audio. It sports an SMOS i2 SE chip for hi-fi digital output and a dedicated S/PDIF coaxial port, plus an enhanced analog output that's been tuned for low noise. There's also a USB DAC port, so if you have a favorite external DAC you can just plug it in and let the Max handle the video while the external unit handles the conversion. In practice, I tried it with a pair of passive bookshelf speakers hooked up via a high-end DAC, and the soundstage was noticeably wider than what I got from my TV's internal DAC. The TCXO, temperature-compensated crystal oscillator, chip does a solid job keeping the audio clock stable, which eliminates the jitter that can cause subtle timing issues in high-resolution tracks. If you're the type who spends evenings listening to lossless FLAC files or streaming through Tidal Hi-Fi, that stability translates into a cleaner, more precise playback. Now, let's talk video. The Max can decode full 8K streams, which sounds impressive on paper, but there are a couple of real-world nuances. First, true 8K content is still scarce. Most streaming services only offer 4K HDR, and the 8K mode is mostly a future-proofing promise. That said, when you do have an 8K source, say a high-resolution local file or a future Blu-ray player, the Max handles it without choking, thanks to its robust hardware decoder and the linear power supply that keeps performance consistent under load. I tested a 4K HDR 60 frames per second movie, and the picture was buttery smooth, with deep blacks and accurate colors, matching what you'd expect from a mid-range 4K TV. The upscaling to 8K, if you have a display that supports it, was subtle but present. You won't get a cinema-level boost, but you'll see a slight increase in detail sharpness. Storage is another area where the Max tries to differentiate itself. You can buy it with either an 8GB internal flash module for the OS or a larger 64GB version that gives you more room for apps and system files. The real star, however, is the built-in 2.5-inch HDD rack. You can slide a standard SATA drive into the back and instantly expand your library. I loaded a 4TB drive with a mix of movies, music, and some 8K test footage. The file browser is Android-based, so you get the familiar grid view, but Dune's custom UI sits on top, making navigation a bit cleaner. The downside is that the UI can feel a touch sluggish when you have thousands of titles. The search function works, but it's not as snappy as some pure software players. If you're planning on a massive library, you might want to keep an eye on how quickly the system indexes new files. Who should actually consider buying the Dune HD Max? If you're a home theater enthusiast who already has a decent AV receiver and wants a source that can feed both top-tier video and audiophile-grade digital audio without adding extra boxes to the mix, the Max is a solid choice. It shines when you pair it with a high-end DAC, a set of powered speakers, or a sound system that can take advantage of the low-jitter digital output. It also makes sense if you have a growing collection of high-resolution media that you store locally, The built-in HDD rack means you don't need a separate NAS just for movies. On the flip side, if you're the typical cord cutter who streams Netflix, Disney+, and occasional YouTube videos, you probably won't notice the audio advantages, and the 8K capability will sit idle. In that